Geez, Elbow will be glad to see the back of this week.
He's praying for an Easter miracle, and he got one. He didn't up at a press conference. His latest one was in Cessnock in New South Wales, where he appeared alongside a Viking.
How are you, mate?
Good, yourself?
That was actually Olympic sport shooter Dan Repicoli, who's the Labor candidate for Hunter. Whereas yesterday Albo was running away from journos.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Today he was cracking gags with them.
Thanks very much, Dan, and it's great to be back in the Hunter again with a candidate who has a big presence here in the Hunter, you might have noticed. I have to be careful so I don't say a different thing here from Margaret River.
And reminiscing about his working days before politics.
What's the hardest day of work you've ever had?
I've got to say there were days at Pancakes on the Rocks which were pretty tough.
Labor's working class hero made pancakes.
I worked the Saturday night 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift on a Sunday morning.
Not exactly like being down the salt mines though, Albo.
To tell the truth, the pancake mix got into your skin and people knew that you had worked for 2 or 3 days afterwards that you'd been there. But probably the hardest job I had, to clean one of the wharves down now where the Wharf Theatre is and the Sydney Theatre Company there. We had to go in with high-powered hoses. They're really tall roofs. We were hosing off with high-powered hoses, essentially pigeon poo.
Little did the young Albanese know that hosing off pieces of crap would become a valuable life skill in Parliament.
He's still getting hammered on the economy.
He's done his homework this time.
What is your fiscal plan to be able to put downward pressure on rates?
Well, what the Reserve Bank has done, I support what Philip Lowe has done. They've adjusted the Nauru from they were looking at 5, they've adjusted that down to 4.25 because what they assess is they want to see a lift in real wages.
Boom, nailed it. All right.
It wasn't the third day, it was the fourth, but Albo rose from the dead. He was actually looking like he had finally managed to...
Still the worst start ever to an election campaign.
Definitely the worst first day. He's now banking on this. Meanwhile, the PM is ferociously on message.
Forgive me if I don't take the Labor Party at their word, because it's today's Thursday. What Anthony Albanese will believe on Saturday is an open proposition, and this election is a choice between who you do know and what they have done and what our plans are, and someone you just don't know.
Morrison was looking like a man in command, but Albanese reckons he knows the PM's Achilles heel, his reluctance for a federal corruption buster.
He said very clearly when he became Prime Minister there would be a National Integrity Commission. And yet what he's done is not even introduced the legislation of the Parliament.
Why is he against it?
Well, he says he isn't. It's just got to have the correct powers. Presumably powers that don't include the ability to work out why the Alan Tudge has supposedly done nothing wrong.
Should Mr Tudge wish to return, I know he will, and I look forward to him doing that.
Yet his one-time lover Rochelle Miller got a $500,000 payout after claiming Tudge emotionally and on one occasion physically abused her. Morrison's exposed there, so he did what every good Polly does. Avoid the question and talk about something else.
Deflect, deflect, deflect.
Namely Albo's economic credentials, or lack thereof.
Well, this is Anthony Albanese as usual. He doesn't have an economic plan, so he goes for the grubby smear. He's been doing that for the last 3 years.
Deflect, deflect, deflect.
The man in command then came perilously close to displaying a touch of arrogance.
And when they do come up with a policy, they borrow it from Kevin Rudd, and I've got to tell them, if you're going to go through Kevin Rudd's policy book, try and pick the good ones. I know it requires a bit of effort, but try and pick the good ones.
There's f***ing language.
You're very cynical about politicians.
Well, there's a lot to be cynical about, especially when you've got politicians like George Christensen. This guy was a Nationals MP, had the Queensland seat of Dawson. He's over politics and he wants out, but he wanted a golden handshake as well.
I'm leaving here with something. I'm from around the way. I'm leaving with something.
Politicians who lose their seat in an election or are not endorsed by their party so they can't contest an election are eligible for something called a resettlement allowance. It's a $100,000 consolation prize for being a loser. George tried his best to get disendorsed last year so he could get the cash, but the Nats refused. So he jumped ship to Pauline Hanson's One Nation party,
As far as I'm concerned, it's a joke.
running for the unwinnable third spot on that party's Senate ticket, which means he's guaranteed to lose and guaranteed to pick up 100 grand.
Please explain.
No explanation needed. He's an arsehole.
Deposit for a new house when he resettles.
We are in a bizarre property universe right now. House prices are going up, but builders are going bust. Builders usually go under when house prices are falling, as happened in, say, 1991, when high interest rates killed the market. It's a different cause today, but same result. Costs are going up, and even if you can pass them on to the customer, you can't get workers on site to start the build. Everyone got a concrete slab down very quickly to qualify for the state and federal building grants. Now they're just sitting empty because they're no tradies. It's these ghost slabs that are bringing the industry to its knees. There are three major progress payments when you build a house. Slab down, that's been locked in. Plate, that's when the brickies are done. And roof cover, which is self-explanatory. A lot of builders have only got one of those three payments, so their cash flow...
There's no cash, all right? Cash, no. Robbo? No cash.
And no cash flow means...
More headlines like this. Because nobody can build a house, more people are looking at buying an existing one, and that sent prices soaring.
Well, that's not good for people who want to break into the market.
60% of first home buyers are now having to borrow from the bank of mum and dad. Parents are lending an average of $100,000, that's a parliamentary resettlement payment just there, to help with their kids' home deposits.
God, who's got that kind of money to give to their kids?
The people who bought properties in 1991. The people who had the courage to buy when everyone else was selling. Rich people.
Rich people always win.
And guess what rich people do when everyone else is buying, like is happening right now?
The rich get richer.
And you and I are just hoping for an Easter miracle.
Oh, we've got company there.
Thanks very much.
I'm Ben Harvey. For more Up Late, click the subscribe button below.